When should you promote from elementary into your youth ministry? Whether you promote at the beginning of the summer or whether you wait until the end of summer and closer to the fall and start of your school year, whether you're promoting from 5th to 6th or from 6th to 7th, this video is for you. And make sure that you stick around to the very end of the video, because I'm gonna then rattle off 5 tips to make your grade and event promotion fantastic, and ones that you can implement right now. And don't forget, as always, there are chapters listed down below so that you can jump ahead to the part of the video that matters the most to you. Welcome everyone to the Hybrid Ministry Show. Well, everyone, welcome to the Hybrid Ministry Show. When should you promote in your youth ministry from elementary into your student ministry? Let's talk about some pros and some cons from summer versus beginning of the school year, or summer versus end of summer. And so 2 pros, 2 cons from each category. Pro number 1 from promoting at the beginning of the summer is it is a clean and it is a fresh start for everyone. The school year is immediately in the rearview mirror, and people, students especially, are ready to move on to what's next and what's ahead of them. And so the beginning of summer provides an amazing opportunity, just mentally and from a vibes standpoint, of when it feels like the most natural time to promote from elementary into youth ministry. If you also promote at the beginning of summer, you have the option, if it's something that you choose to take advantage of, to let your most recently incoming students be able to go with you to summer camp. Now, historically, I have allowed and loved having our incoming 6th graders or our incoming 7th graders be able to go with us to summer camp. And while they're still very young, it's an amazing opportunity to kind of introduce them and, a little bit baptism by fire to our student ministry, to our leaders, to me as the youth pastor. But it does really help, in my mind, help solidify their involvement and their excitement around student ministry. Now, what are the cons, however, of if you promote at the beginning of the summer? Some of the cons, I would say, are that it is a weird programming time for a lot of youth ministries. Your school year youth ministry programming is pretty dialed in, it's pretty locked in. Summer ends up being weird. You take a lot more breaks. You have a lot more maybe of a skeleton program. You maybe don't even meet at all. And so to promote at the beginning of the summer and then introduce your 6th graders into a little bit more of a weird and kind of nebulous time on the calendar, I think can be a little bit tricky, especially with solidifying their involvement and regularity. And so maybe, yes, they did get to go to camp, but then they came back from camp, and what are you doing in your youth ministry that they can grab onto and that they can attach onto in their first few weeks and first few months of being involved in youth ministry? And one of the reasons for that weird and kind of nebulous programming is this other con, is that it is a vacation time for a lot of families. And so while it may be best and most advantageous for you to promote at the beginning of the summer, those students are promoted, but then they go on vacation with their families. And maybe they're not on vacation all summer. They're gone for a week, but they come back, and then their friend is also gone on vacation, and it's staggered. And then that friend comes back, and then the third friend is on vacation, and then the first friend is at their horseback riding camp or whatever. And so students are all over the place in the summer. And so a con of promoting in the summer is you lose the optionality for just regular kind of consistent attendance and regular and kind of consistent programming, for your students. So then on the flip side, if you're like, okay, yeah, you're right, those are some disadvantages for sure, maybe we should consider promoting at the end of summer. Let's talk a little bit about what the pros and the cons are about promoting at the end of summer. So a pro is that students do enter into your programming now at what I would say is peak programming time for most youth ministries in the world. And so the important thing that we need to understand is that most student ministries have a solid, post Labor Day to Memorial Day calendar of student ministry. And so if you want to give them your best version of programming, put your best foot forward, it might be most advantageous for your students to step into your most well done, most fully hatched student ministry programming, which is going to take place at the end of summer rather than the beginning of summer. The other pro is that they are a few months older, and they are now in middle school. You got to think, if you promote at the beginning of summer, they've just been in elementary school, and now they're stepping into middle school version of programming, but they've never actually been in middle school. And so you'll have them for 3 months with an elementary school mindset rather than a more middle school mindset. And so those 3 months, you might not think they're a big deal, but from a just development and from a maturity standpoint, those 3 months do make a major difference. You probably have heard this before, but a kid develops the most from the ages of 0 to 3. And then the second period of time where they develop the most is from 6th grade to 8th grade. And so there's going to be a lot of development happening in your 6th graders. And then if you promote in the 7th grade, also at that 7th grade level as well, they're right square in the middle of that second most major developmental 3-year run that they're ever going to experience in their entire life. And so a pro could just be that maturity piece. They're able to sit a little bit longer in chairs. They're able to experience more of a youth ministry setting rather than just simply an elementary setting. What are some of the cons of promoting maybe at the end of school year? This is maybe one of my biggest cons in this entire list, is that when you are done with school, the last day of school, whatever grade you're in, what do you tell everyone that very moment that you step out of the school into your parents' car, or the very next time someone asks you what grade you're in? You don't say, if you left 5th grade, you don't say, I'm in 5th grade. No, you say you're in 6th grade. And so if at church, you're not allowing them to move up when they're emotionally moving up, I think that's a tough sell for a lot of kids in that age group. They're ready to move on to what's next. And so to hold them back for all of June, all of July, and all of August, that, in my opinion, that can be a little bit tough. In the same way that there's a lot of kind of tough moments and tough decisions to make when making this decision. But I think one of the toughest ones for the actual student is going to be the fact that they're not able to move up when mentally they've graduated, right? We all the graduations happen in May. And then to hold back on the church graduation until the end of summer, that just really doesn't fall into alignment with the way that their life is working at the time. And then the last con here about promoting at the end of summer is very simply, they can't come to camp. If you choose to hold them back, you do rule them out of that ability of being able to go with you to summer camp. And if that's a value of yours, if you want to help integrate new students, if you want to help give students the best week that your student ministry has to offer, in most cases it's a week of summer camp, they don't get to experience that until a full calendar year later. And maybe there's some value in waiting and, looking ahead to and being excited about camp. But maybe there's a little bit of a loss there as well. And just the fact that they're brand new customers, so to speak, of your student ministry, of what you have to offer, and they're not allowed to go to camp. That might just be a little bit of a bummer, and you may miss an opportunity to kind of grab some momentum and ride it into the school year. So, hey, youth pastors, church communications people, would you like to have your social media dialed in for the next 90 days, especially with summer on the horizon? Listen, that's exactly what you're going to get with the summer and seasonal social media pack. It's a new product that I'm rolling out exclusively on my Patreon. It's 3 months of custom strategic content for less than $20. And this is built specifically for busy youth pastors like you who want to stay active on TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube without spending 10 plus hours a month figuring out what to post. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get 50% of the content completely done. It's turnkey, plug and play, post it and go. The other 50% is custom content for you to still shoot. However, I'm going to provide scripts and templates and frameworks so that your face, your students, and your volunteers are who are seen on your social media feeds. This is not just pretty graphics. This is a full-blown social media strategy for the next 3 months, designed by someone who knows both youth ministry and digital ministry. The best part is it's instant access. Super simple, lets you show off real faces and real stories in your ministry, not some bland stock photos. And so if you're tired of scrambling for the cost of less than a pizza and frankly more nourishing than a pizza, grab the seasonal social media pack today. Oh, and I almost forgot, Patreon members get it for free. With all those things being said, regardless of where you're promoting, regardless of if you're beginning of summer, regardless of if you're end of summer, I do have 5 amazing and incredible tips that you can implement right now, because here's the fact. When this video drops, you've probably made your before summer or end of summer decision. But these 5 tips, they can be implemented by you right now, regardless of what decisions have been made. So tip number 1 is, in light of all the pros, in light of all the cons, regardless of where you land on that decision, if as we laid those out, you maybe were even swayed from like, I was an end of summer guy, now I'm a beginning of summer guy, or vice versa. This tip is the most important tip of all the tips. Make sure that your grade promotion is in alignment with the rest of your church. And what I mean by that is, you can't have your kids ministry promoting from kindergarten to first grade, from first grade to second grade, and all the way through at, like, say, the beginning of summer, and then you hold until the end of summer. Even if you personally are in a disagreeing state with the rest of the way your church, especially your elementary, maybe your college ministry is promoting, your most important value in this is alignment with the church from top to bottom. And so you need to make sure that you're on the same page with your kids minister. You need to make sure you're on the same page with your collegiate minister, so that you guys all together collectively have one big day where everyone promotes up. That's also going to make things that you might not care about quite as much, like database and like those types of things. All of those promote at the exact same time. And it would be confusing if elementary and college promoted at one time and student ministry held back and promoted at another time. And so just make sure you're in alignment. And if, your kids ministry makes a decision that you're not much of a fan of, I would argue that it's important to either A, cave in to their decision, or B, find a way to get on the same page so that you can collectively walk out arm's length as a church, unified, that says, hey, this is what we as a church are doing. That is, in my opinion, the most important thing in all of this, regardless of where you land as far as the decision, the individual decision is made. Tip number 2 is that you should host a parent meeting and subsequent tour in said meeting. Now, you'll never have better attendance for a meeting than when you're bringing a 5th grader into 6th grade, or a 6th grader into 7th grade. In a recent episode that I had about 10 tips with partnering with parents, which was a fantastic episode with my friend Josh Boldman, linked right here at the top of the YouTube screen, we discussed how meetings are difficult for attendance for parents, and quite honestly, not the most effective use of your time. However, if you are going to have a meeting, if you are going to catch a wave, and if you are going to have a decent attendance for something, it is going to be during this transition. So host it, put your best foot forward, bring out all of the stops, give those parents a tour of your space so that they know exactly what there is to expect in student ministry, and that they'll feel comfortable handing their kid off from elementary, which you got to think about this. Parents have had their kids in the exact same ministry now for that kid's entire life. And now they're being asked to trust a completely new person, a stranger, that's you, and your ministry. And so make sure that you roll out the red carpet. You may not get 100% attendance, but just know this. If you don't get 100% attendance, that means the people that don't attend, they probably trust you. And if they don't attend and they don't trust you, it probably just means they couldn't make it for one reason or another. And so host that meeting. And let me give you a little bonus pro tip from the Hybrid Ministry Show. Find a way to record it. Capture the audio out of your soundboard and send out the audio podcast later. Throw a video in the back of the room so you can link the audio and the video. Or just like voice memo your phone from where you're talking at the front of the room and send that audio out later. Even if it's rough and dirty, but get that in the hands of your parents, especially the ones who don't make it. Now, tip number 3 is find a way to celebrate those 6th graders or 7th graders' arrival. Give them swag. Create a spirit tunnel. They're the VIPs for the day. And the fact is, in our culture and in our world, that's the exact opposite. When a new grade comes into middle school or junior high, they're not the VIPs. They're the low people on the totem pole. And while they are the lowest on the totem pole from a factual standpoint, at church, that should be flipped on its head. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. And so therefore, let's make our new incoming grade, let's make them feel like $1 million. Tip number 4 is make sure that your parent section on your website, your overall website, your social media, make sure all of that is up to date. You have a whole new crop of eyes looking at your website, looking at your social media. Link down below, I have an entire 4-part playlist on the importance of communication in church, and especially the importance of an updated website. That is very simply the most basic step in all of hybrid ministry and all of social media ministry. Your website needs to be your backstop and your landing spot. That is what allows you to stop promoting on your social media, because your website can handle the information and the disseminating of the actual data that the people are looking for. But you can't do that on social media if your website is not up to date. And when you have a brand new wave of parents and a brand new wave of students, it's important, just like your programming, to also online put your best foot forward. And that includes making sure that your website is up to date and your social media looks the way that you would want a brand new parent who might be freaked out about sending their kid from elementary into middle school to look at your website and be like, oh yeah, I can trust this person. And the 5th and final tip is perhaps consider creating their own week for them. So in our current context, when our VBS is going on church-wide for all the elementary age kids, we are offering a very custom, specific 5th grade into 6th grade only week. And it is basically their own version of VBS. And so because of that week, we don't actually let our 6th graders come with us to camp, which is a deviation from my strategy as a 14-year plus youth ministry veteran. But because we offer this week, it allows them to have that same momentum that a week of camp would allow them to do without bringing such a young kid on an overnight camp. And so it allows them to have a full year in our ministry before they do ever go to camp. But it's not that they get nothing. They get their very own week. They're the only grade in the entire church that gets their own specific, custom, laser-focused week. And so it's a week for 5th graders into 6th graders. And our church is called Cross Creek Church, and so we call it Cross the Creek Week. And it's the week where those kids come across the creek. We have a creek, physical creek on our campus, and the kids' building is on one side of the creek, and the student building is on the other side of the creek. And we deck it out, man. We go all in, and it is a spazoidy week. I mean, those kids are wild and crazy, but it is an amazing week for them to connect with us. It's the only time that an entire grade gets an entire focus with the student staff, student residents, student volunteers, and we pull out all of the stops. And so if you have the bandwidth, the capacity, the volunteer man hours, the space on your calendar in and around your camps and your mission trips to create a custom week, it's just morning, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for 5th graders, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, during our work week at church, for those kids to experience everything that student ministry has to offer. It feels like VBS from a schedule standpoint, but it feels so student ministry from an actual programming standpoint. And it's a way to kind of marry those 2 weeks and create an amazing promotion time for those 5th graders. And so if you have the capacity or the bandwidth, then this one, I will say, you may not be able to pull out this year, but perhaps put it in the back of your mind and consider pulling it out next year as an opportunity to really enhance and uptick that grade promotion for those elementary students coming on in to your student ministry. Well, hey friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, I would love a subscribe. It's free on your end, and it really would make the world of difference on ours. But until next time, and as always, my friends, don't forget to stay hybrid.